The story begins with our protagonist, Keiki Kiryu. He was right in the middle of a crazy dream where he is surrounded by three girls that he's going to meet real soon. But then, boom, his dream gets cut short because his little sister, Mizuha, decides it's a good idea to crash in his bed in the middle of the night. Keiki decides not to hold back. He lets out a shout, demanding to know why she's in his bed. Keiki's all worked up, telling her to cut it out, because being around her just reminds him of how badly he wants a girlfriend. School's the next stop, and what do you know? He gets a message from his senpai, Sayuki. Now, Sayuki's a total looker, but she's also struggling with her calligraphy club room. It's turned into a mess because she's been practicing like crazy. Keiki rings up his buddies and even ropes in his sister to help out. Little Yuka, the one who's a year younger, isn't too thrilled because she and Sayuki don't exactly get along. Then there's Mao, his red-haired classmate. Mao's got no patience for their chit-chat. She's all about action. After a bit of cleaning hustle, they wrap things up, and Keiki gives them the green light to take a breather. Keiki hangs back, though, tidying up the last bits and bobs. Just as he's about to make his exit, he stumbles upon yet another love letter with his name on it. His joy is off the charts, but then he's hit with a curveball. There's a pair of panties tucked in there, too. He turns to his buddy Shuma for advice, but Shuma is clueless and kind of uninterested. Luckily, the fact that the letter was in the club room narrows down the suspects. Keiki's on a mission now. He's got to find out who's behind that heartfelt confession. And wouldn't you know it, he crosses paths with Sayuki, who's suddenly all about spending time in that club room. She even throws out an invite for a sleepover in the club room, of course. However, Keiki turns down the offer. Despite strongly suspecting Sayuki's involvement, he's committed to cracking the case. His next move is to catch up with Yuka, who's chilling in the library. Yuka gets curious about Sayuki and her ample assets, believing they give her an edge with guys. Keiki kind of agrees. As Sayuki leaves, she drops a nugget of wisdom. When a girl playfully teases a guy, it might mean she's got some interest brewing. Keiki's left scratching his head. Shuma is curious about how it went, but Keiki's not picking up any changes in behavior. He's got a touch of envy for Shuma, who's got that popularity going on, but deep down he knows he's got the potential to make someone fall head over heels for him. Things get derailed when he bumps into Mao and ends up getting smacked by a ball, leading to a little blackout. Mao's there to patch him up in the infirmary. Keiki pops the question about whether Mao would support him getting into a relationship with another girl. Mao's a bit uneasy about it and makes a quick exit, telling him not to rely on her for that. On his way home, Keiki crosses paths with Sayuki, who's being a good caretaker to a pup that isn't hers. Keiki's a tad envious, wishing someone would give him that kind of attention. So he takes a shot, and what do you know? He gets a cheeky reward, a kiss on the cheek. This whole scenario, along with Mizuha's intel that Sayuki was the last one to leave the club room, leads Keiki to a conclusion. Sayuki is probably the one who penned that love letter. He tries to bring it up with her, but in his mind, the words come out as awkward as asking her out. Sayuki eavesdrops on this and surprises Keiki by agreeing to his proposal for a date. Keiki's a bit skeptical, but Sayuki assures him it's not just about that. She's actually super grateful to Keiki for preventing the club from shutting down last year. Keiki respects her a bunch for that, but he goes ahead and asks her if there's something more brewing between them. Cute Sayuki turns a shade redder and makes a quick getaway. The next day, it's like Sayuki's on an avoidance mission, which puts Keiki in a total funk. He turns to Mao for advice, and she dishes out the tough truth. He's got to step up his game a bit. If Sayuki really does have feelings for him, things will work out. So Keiki goes into stealth mode, trailing Sayuki after school and catching her to spill the beans that he's on to her secret and that he's dead serious about her. Sayuki blushes, reassures him, but hints that she needs a chat the next day. That day feels like forever, but when it finally arrives, Keiki's in for a shock. Sayuki's sporting a collar and bearing it all, revealing an unexpected desire to be treated like a pet. Keiki is completely caught off guard by Sayuki's confession, which is way beyond what he saw coming. It turns out that his assertive approach actually convinced her to embrace the role of being his pet. You see, She's got a kink for being mistreated. Later on, Keiki catches wind that the teacher found the clubroom door wide open. A new theory takes shape. Someone slipped in, stayed hidden, and then slipped out, leaving the door unlocked when Keiki exited. With no way to ask Sayuki directly, he's left with no choice but to keep digging. He heads to the library and teams up with Yuka to dig up information. But here's the twist. Sayuki pops up with some unexpected facts that leave Yuka flustered and trying to keep her away from Keiki. Sayuki isn't having it. She claims they're way closer than Yuka thinks, and even boasts about their date. Keiki steps in, downplaying the date as just an ice cream hangout and offering to get Yuka a treat of her own. Well, that just ticks Yuka off even more. Sayuki carries on, mentioning things in a totally haphazard way that only amps up Yuka's irritation. Eventually, Sayuki finds her book and makes her exit. Keiki tries to calm Yuka down by asking what she wants from Sayuki, and surprise, Yuka's demand is for a date. Now Keiki starts pondering if Yuka might be the letter writer he's been searching for. His sister overhears the date talk and gives him some advice, sensing it's his first time. Keiki follows the advice to the T. He arrives early, holds hands, catches a flick, and grabs a bite to eat. He spills that this is his first proper date, mentioning that the outing with Sayuki was different. Yuka's beaming, feeling special as his first. While Yuka hits the restroom, Keiki's pinching himself, marveling that he's on a date with such a knockout. But then, Yuka's taking her sweet time, so he goes on the hunt and walks in on something shocking. A group of guys making advances on her. Keiki steps in, apologizing for not foreseeing this due to Yuka's stunning looks. Yuka blushes and plants a kiss on him for coming to her rescue. And just like that, she pops the question, can they hold hands when they return? Yuka conks out, and Keiki finds himself just staring, reflecting that Yuka's distinct appearance led to her isolation from classmates. She used to be a lone wolf, seemingly aloof, but Keiki broke through that icy exterior, revealing the Yuka he knows today. The next day, Shoma checks in to see if Keiki finally got his answer about Yuka being the letter writer, but Keiki hasn't pressed that issue. He was too wrapped up in their first date. But guess what? A message from Yuka pops up, and Shuma's got a hunch it's a love confession. Keiki goes to meet her, only to be slapped with a curveball. Yuka's got a boyfriend. Wait, it doesn't end there. She's got a proposal for him, and it's that she wants him to be her slave. Yep, she figured he's the perfect fit for that gig. After all, she's cute, so no biggie, right? Keiki's more befuddled than ever. Yuka tries to get him on board by handing over her freshly worn clothes, but it's not doing the trick. She dials up the intensity, shoving her panties in his mouth and mounting him. But things take a dark turn. Keiki starts choking, feeling like he's about to die over the incident. The next morning, Keiki wakes up hoping it was all a nightmare, but alas, it did happen. Yuka had escorted him to the infirmary, spinning a tale that he passed out after a love confession. It's a daytime nightmare, all right? Keiki's in a real bind about going to school after that whole Yuka debacle. He's utterly embarrassed and ashamed, but he knows he can't just bail without a solid reason. He does his best to dodge Yuka, but she leaves her bra in his locker. Pretty hard to ignore. So he bites the bullet and goes to talk to her. Yuka goes all storyteller on him, reading out a tale she's written about her desires involving him. This sends Keiki into a whole new level of trauma. It hits him that she wants him as a submissive slave to her dominatrix. Keiki makes a quick escape. Just as he's about to make his getaway, guess who pops up? None other than Sayuki, wielding a compromising picture she's threatening to unleash online if Keiki doesn't make a beeline for the clubroom. When Keiki arrives, he's thrown for a loop. Sayuki is dressed up as a maid. Turns out her research led her to believe that maids were the closest thing to pets, so she's taken on the role. But Keiki's got a simple request, just dress normally. Sayuki's cool with it, except there's a twist. The key to her handcuffs is stuck between her cleavage, and she needs Keiki to get it out quickly because she has to go to the bathroom. Keiki's got two options, neither of them great, and he ends up having to retrieve the key. Sayuki tells him off for not spending as much time with her lately, pulling out the dog analogy. A pooch gets bummed if it's not around its owner. She's up for all kinds of naughty activities. Basically, anything goes. Keiki's in a moral tug of war, even his shoulder angel tempted by her ample assets, but he draws the line. He won't engage in such things without genuine affection. So he takes off. The next day, Keiki confides in Shuma that it's doubtful Sayuki or Yuka wrote the letter. That leaves Mao as the only contender. Shuma's on board, considering she's always got her eyes on Keiki. Keiki's taken aback. He thought Shuma was interested in Mao due to her popularity. Shuma gets peeved and walks off, leaving Keiki in the dark. During break, Sayuki summons Keiki. On the way, Yuka blindfolds him and leads him somewhere, claiming it's for a tying-up session. She whips off her sock, demanding a foot kiss. If he refuses, she'll take his first kiss instead. Keiki's caught in the crosshairs, feeling powerless. He can't bring himself to kiss her foot or her lips without love in the mix. But then, a twist of fate, Sayuki appears on the scene, having overheard Yuka's wild fantasy. She tries to break Keiki free, but Yuka is having none of it. She orders Sayuki to back off, labeling her a treatment addict. Keiki assumes that Yuka knows Sayuki's secret, but it turns out Sayuki spilled the beans when they first met, sensing Yuka's interest in Keiki. Amidst the chaos, Mao shows up and hauls Keiki away. Sayuki and Yuka trail behind but stumble, giving Keiki the slip. Mao's not impressed, giving Keiki an earful for his Sayuki breast fixation and his Yuka dates. Keiki's puzzled, wondering why Mao's so worked up. Eventually, she admits it. She doesn't like seeing Keiki with other girls. Maybe she's the one who sent that first letter. Or maybe she's just another member of the Keiki Crazy Club. As a consequence, tension fills the air between Keiki and Mao, and Yuka picks up on Mao's obvious distress. Keiki's taken aback. Yuka's normally intimate dealing with hormonal quirks, but she clarifies that she can switch between affection and mistreatment. Meanwhile, Sayuki steps up to apologize for causing Mao's distress. She pledges to tone down her public advances, reserving them for private moments. Before she can fully resolve things with Mao, though, she wants to ensure her master's friendship isn't jeopardized because of her. Keiki makes an attempt to talk to Mao, but she shuts him down, feeling deserted by him. In a bid to mend things and seek her forgiveness, Keiki arranges a hangout with Shuma. Just like old times, they hit up an arcade, and Shuma playfully teases Keiki, dropping hints about Mao's jealousy and giving them some space. On their way to Mao's house, she asks Keiki for some alone time, but before he can grasp the situation, the rain starts to pour, forcing them to find shelter. With the rain interrupting their gaze, Mao's apprehensive, seeing Keiki as a predator. In an effort to change the atmosphere, Keiki suggests getting some drinks because Mao's cold. However, when he spots her looking at photos, he gets a gut feeling that Mao's feelings are directed at Shoma. This revelation saddens her, and she bolts. Keiki's left uncertain, wondering if he's misread everything once again, his face void of expression. Come the next day, Sayuki notes that things remain unresolved, deciding to step back and let Keiki sort things out. Yuka also picks up on his lifeless demeanor, but it's his younger sister who refuses to stand by idly. She offers him a shoulder to lean on, and after hearing the whole saga, advises him to just be himself. Often the best approach, though answers are hazy. Keiki decides he'll talk to Mao no matter what. Persistence pays off as he pushes Mao until she spills her truth. She can't get him out of her head. He apologizes for everything and suggests they start anew by getting to know each other better. He's ready to do whatever it takes to mend things, and Mao goes earnest, even confessing she's got feelings too. She doesn't stop there, though. She requests that he formally start dating Shuma. Wait, what? Keiki's floored. Turns out Mao's fishing for inspiration for her boy love manga, drawing from interactions between Keiki and Shuma. Keiki puts his foot down, urging Mao to stop using them as material, especially considering their thinly veiled identities. Mao's unyielding. The series is too popular and already building expectations for its second installment. Mao throws down a warning. If he doesn't comply, she'll make sure he's got no shot with any other girl. Despite his reservations, Mao stands firm. Keiki's disillusioned, realizing even Mao has a darker side. However, days later, a nasty surprise lands in his lap. Another anonymous envelope in his locker. He entertains the thought that Cinderella might be back, but what's inside leaves him absolutely stunned. As Keiki opens the letter, he's utterly baffled by its contents, a photo of him with his hand between Sayuki's melons. The accompanying note demands he show up at the astronomy club, or else his reputation is on the line. Racing to the club, he's met by Koharu, an albino loli. His life has taken a rather bizarre turn lately, with days far from ordinary. After declining Mao's proposition, he stumbles upon Yuka decked out as a bunny girl in the clubroom, a dream come true, yet he's bewildered as to how this came about. Sayuki clarifies the situation. Yuka had to don the bunny girl outfit for a whole day to gain club acceptance. Mao also joins the club, leveraging Sayuki's love for her BL manga by promising her a copy of the new edition, but she doesn't hesitate to lay down a threat. The real reason she's joined must stay under wraps, or else her work will be exposed. Keiki goes to Mizuha, thus the club takes a unique turn. Back to the present, Keiki questions Koharu's call, and she drops a bombshell saying she's in love with him. Keiki reckons she's the girl he's been hunting for, embracing her confession, but here's the curveball. Koharu's head over heels for Shoma. She implores Keiki to assist her in capturing Shoma's heart, so they head to a restaurant to hatch a strategy. Keiki isn't too worried since Shoma has a thing for lolis, but Koharu is aware of the snag. She's older than Shoma. The revelation is hard to believe considering Koharu looks like a little girl. However, when Keiki spots the color of her skirt, it all clicks. While he contemplates giving up, the incriminating photo won't release its grip, spurring him to find a solution. Deep in thought, he's approached by Mizuha, who treats him to ice cream and helps with her shopping. She brings tidings. The school is shifting to summer uniforms, all sporting the same skirt color, only differentiated by ribbons. Keiki has a plan. Come the next day, he introduces Koharu and Shoma. Shoma is taken aback, assuming Koharu is a younger student. He's charmed when she calls him senpai, confirming Keiki's strategy worked. Koharu's hoodie-covered skin makes it impossible to see the ribbon on her attire. Numbers are exchanged, photos snapped. It's a dream realized for Koharu. Still, the question lingers. Why hasn't the letter sender contacted Keiki seeking Koharu's assistance? He endeavors to identify the sender. After analyzing the context, he realizes the sender doesn't necessarily have to be from the club. Any girl who entered the club room that day could be the one. It's a vast territory to cover. He considers seeking information in the club room, but changes course, seeing the waifus engrossed in their regular activities. A brilliant thought strikes. He could ask a teacher. But fate intervenes in the form of the student council vice president, Fujimoto, who stumbles and falls. Keiki leaps to her rescue, finding himself in a rather compromising position. He tries to assure her she can get up, but Fujimoto seems to relish the situation, leaving Keiki flustered. Later on, Keiki heads to the teacher to inquire if she spotted anyone unusual on that fateful day. The teacher mentions an encounter with Fujimoto, making her a prime contender as the letter's sender. While he ponders this, Fujimoto appears behind him on a search to express gratitude for his earlier help. She gives him chocolates, and as she leaves, lingers for a sniff, citing the need for a recharge. Days pass, and Keiki tasks Koharu with monitoring Fujimoto. The findings confirm Fujimoto as an exemplary student, albeit a bit clumsy at times, which only enhances her charm. She frequents Keiki's domain due to club commitments, seeking solitude in his club. He encounters Yuka, who set a trap for him, a punishment for supposedly groping her melons in her dream. In his defense, he accidentally repeats the act for real. This throws Yuka into a frenzy, and she scampers away. At this juncture, Fujimoto materializes to inspect the clubroom, ostensibly ensuring everything's in order. But more than that, she needs Keiki's help in tidying up the premises. Observing from the shadows, Sayuki sees Fujimoto as an intruder. Joining forces to clean up, Fujimoto's proximity makes Sayuki uneasy. She requests Fujimoto to back off, but with Keiki's status as unattached, Fujimoto edges closer, teasingly irking Sayuki. Sayuki, not one to back down, whisks Keiki away to assert her claim. She resorts to licking him and disregards his pleas to cease. He reminisces about a similar encounter from his childhood with his grandfather's dog and recalls a technique to deter it. Acting swiftly, he applies the same technique to Sayuki. Her blush is evident, but she's entranced and departs on her own accord, unable to control herself. Back to Fujimoto. She notices Keiki's acquisition of an adult magazine. Trying to grant him privacy, she unintentionally takes a plunge into a lake. He glimpses her translucent underwear and offers his jacket. The next day, he confides in Shuma about his investigation into Fujimoto. By chance, they cross paths with her, but she evades Keiki, possibly due to lingering embarrassment. After some time, Fujimoto summons him to the student council room, expressing gratitude for the jacket and offering tea and cake. She clings to him, and he urges caution in case they're interrupted, but she's already taken precautions, ensuring their solitude as they doze off while embracing. Keiki awakens to a shocking sight that his pants are down. Fujimoto reveals her penchant for people's scents, and his current aroma is her favorite, prompting her desire for his sweaty underwear. Disheartened by the realization that she wasn't as normal as he thought, he connects the dots that pointed to her as the letter sender. Firmly, he refuses to part with his underwear. The days unfold, and Shoma and Koharu's relationship progresses harmoniously. Yet the looming issue remains. If Shuma uncovers Koharu's true age, rejection might be imminent. Hence, they devise a strategy, a double date to foster closeness. The hitch arises in choosing a suitable partner for Shuma. Yuka is too cute, Fujimoto's scent-sniffing habits could prove awkward, and Mao's protectiveness could pose a hurdle. The remaining option is Sayuki. Sayuki accepts the role, albeit knowing her limitations in sports and her inexperience with bowling. Nonetheless, she challenges with a wager. The loser must endure face painting, and the third participant must obey a command from the winner. Keiki hesitates, concerned for Sayuki, but she maintains her faith. She underestimates Koharu due to her petite stature, assuming she isn't skilled. A big surprise awaits Sayuki when she discovers Koharu's bowling expertise, drawn from frequent family outings with Shoma. Placing third, Koharu encourages them to address each other by their names. Shuma relishes this, as being treated confidently by someone lovely is a dream fulfilled. The date ends on a positive note, with Koharu ecstatic over the perfect day with Shuma. Their conversations flow, and they even lay the groundwork for future rendezvous. Koharu believes it's time to unveil her true feelings. Discarding the facade, she awaits Shoma after class and invites him to depart together. Keiki, fraught with concern, shadows them, embodying the role Koharu used to play, the stalker. Koharu recounts her initial encounter with Shoma, marked by love at first sight. In her confession, she reveals her true age. Shoma, taken aback, gently but regretfully declines due to her affinity for younger girls. Heartbroken, Koharu leaves. Keiki engages Shoma, critiquing his dismissal over a superficial reason. Rejecting someone who invested an entire year to just converse feels unjust. Shuma acknowledges the difference and pledges to address it. He decides to act moving forward. Keiki converses with Koharu about Shoma's baffling rationale for his rejection. However, he halts the discussion, overwhelmed by guilt. He requests time from Koharu to transition from his preference for younger girls and embrace a serious relationship. This cliched plea frustrates Koharu, sensing Shoma's inability to reject her candidly. Shuma's unease escalates further. However, Koharu's reaction turns out to be a ruse, as she is willing to wait, seemingly resolved. Shuma switches on the lights, only to be greeted by the astronomy club adorned with photos secretly taken by Koharu. The revelation makes him reconsider pursuing a romantic relationship with her, given her seemingly stalker-like behavior. After this unfortunate ending, Keiki resumes his search for the girl from the letter. He can't think of anyone since he ruled out Fujimoto. He wonders if it could be one of the girls from the club who are cute but overly developed. He keeps thinking and happens to see his sister changing, creating an uncomfortable atmosphere. However, Mizuha knows he didn't do it on purpose, so she asks why he's so distracted. Keiki asks her what she would do if she had the same physique as his waifus, and she immediately says she would call the police. This reassures Keiki because he was starting to doubt if he was the weird one. Sayuki rings the doorbell because she wanted to see Keiki and apologize for her behavior during a trash collection, blaming it on a lack of attention. She came to Keiki to receive some love. Keiki agrees as long as it doesn't go to the extremes of last time and wonders what he should do. He treats Sayuki like a dog and pets her belly, which makes Sayuki extremely happy to the point that she wants to reward Keiki by snuggling with him. Keiki is in paradise, but Mizuha enters, interrupting them. Seeing that she's interrupting, she leaves so they can continue in peace. Keiki rushes to explain that it's not what Mizuha thinks, but the more he tries to justify himself, the worse it gets. Sayuki leaves because she has had enough, and Keiki asks her to find someone else to be her master, but she refuses, saying that only he is worthy. Then Yuka arrives, feeling bored and deciding to tame Keiki. She brings a bunny costume for this purpose. Keiki tries to refuse, but he is threatened with having Mizuha see his BL manga. He has no choice but to comply. Yuka takes photos to immortalize the embarrassing scene she witnesses and decides to reward Keiki by giving him her underwear. However, he tries to stop her because he's not interested, and Yuka falls on top of him. Mizuha goes to see what happened and is once again surprised. Keiki tries to justify that it was Yuka who wanted to take off her underwear, but this doesn't fit Mizuha's parameters if she doesn't believe him. Hours pass, and Mao calls Keiki to ask how things went with the waifus, as they had a plan in advance and overheard unintentionally. Upon learning that nothing happened to worry about, Mao wonders if Keiki has ever had a girlfriend. He says no, and then Mao asks if he would consider her as the first one, but immediately says it's a joke, causing Keiki to ask her not to play with his feelings. Mizuha overhears their conversation, confirming that Keiki has been the victim in these strange and unfortunate events. She is both surprised and amused at his peculiar luck in being able to choose between being a master or a slave, but confidently reaffirms her position as his favorite since she is his younger sister. Keiki heads back to his room, only to realize that the panties left by the mysterious letter sender have vanished. Unsure of what happened, he meets with Koharu and Shoma to discuss possible scenarios. Together, they narrow it down to Yuka or Sayuki, believing that it wasn't an intentional act to leave the panties there. Shoma and Koharu suggest checking under the girls' skirts, but Keiki immediately refuses, considering it morally inappropriate. Determined to discover the truth, Keiki decides to investigate on his own. He first approaches Sayuki, telling her he needs to speak with her. To make the conversation easier, he plays along with her pet and master dynamic. They head to an amusement park to have a private talk away from school, where he reasserts his authority as her master. Noticing Sayuki is wearing a skirt, Keiki seizes the opportunity to go on several rides that involve a lot of movement, hoping to catch a glimpse underneath her skirt for clues. However, despite multiple attempts and numerous rides, Keiki fails to see anything. Frustrated but not giving up, he resolves to try another approach. Despite going on countless rides, Keiki fails to catch a glimpse of anything under Sayuki's skirt. Realizing that his current approach isn't working, he decides to relax and asks Sayuki where she would like to go next, wanting her to enjoy herself as well. Sayuki suggests riding the Ferris wheel. Keiki agrees, realizing that once they're in the private space of the Ferris wheel cabin, no one will be able to see them. He gathers his courage and attempts to ask Sayuki to lift her skirt, but she anticipates his move and unexpectedly licks his cheek, causing his brain to short-circuit, leaving him too flustered to continue. Later, Keiki visits Sayuki's calligraphy exhibition, where he takes the chance to ask her why she chose him as her master. Sayuki explains that initially it was simply because he joined the calligraphy club, but over time she became more convinced that he was meant to be her pet. On their way back home, Keiki, growing desperate to find the missing panties, decides to ask her directly, right in the middle of the street. Sayuki is mortified and embarrassed, but her bold personality prevents her from refusing his request. Reluctantly, she lifts her skirt, and Keiki is shocked by what he sees, something completely unexpected. Later at home, Keiki asks Mizuha if it's normal for someone to go out without wearing any underwear. Mizuha finds the idea absurd, which reassures Keiki, as he realizes that was precisely the case with Sayuki. Due to this incident, Sayuki starts acting nervously around Keiki, apologizing repeatedly for going out like that. She acknowledges how awkward it must have been for him and promises to be more considerate in the future. However, despite her words, Sayuki continues to feel uneasy and can't stop glancing at Keiki with embarrassment. Yuka quickly notices Sayuki's nervousness and seizes the opportunity to make her jealous. She gets closer and closer to Keiki, teasing him until she finally sits on his lap. Sayuki, unable to handle the situation any longer, stands up abruptly and leaves the club, unable to contain her jealousy and discomfort. Keiki talks to Shoma and Koharu, and they come to the conclusion that Sayuki is very important. Then, Keiki goes to talk to her, but is surprised to find that Sayuki had misunderstood the situation, thinking that Keiki was still playing and just pretending to be difficult. Keiki regrets having worried about it. Thanks to this, Keiki doesn't hesitate to ask Sayuki if she took the underwear from his room, and Sayuki confesses to it. Keiki thinks he has finally found the girl he has been looking for. But when Sayuki lifts her skirt, he realizes that they are his own boxers. Due to being so close to Yuka, Sayuki felt lonely and wanted something of Keiki. Although they already knew that as Keiki leaves school, he meets Yuka, who is waiting for rain to stop. He accompanies her to her house, and since it's very cold, she invites him in to warm up. However, Keiki sees this as a golden opportunity to find out if Yuka has the boxers that were taken from his room. He checks in. Yuka takes a photo of him and threatens him to become her slave as he had. In school, Keiki starts obeying everything Yuka says, and Sayuki gets upset. However, Sayuki is aware that Keiki wouldn't submit in that manner unless he was being threatened, as he prefers large breasts like hers. Yuka is also upset because her lemon-like melons were brought into the conversation. She tries to get Keiki to say that he likes them small, but he can't lie about that and confirms that he prefers larger ones. Regardless, he obeys Yuka without complaining. Seeing how he's being treated like a dog, Sayuki decides to leave because she can't bear to witness it. Keiki starts to reflect and realizes that if he discovers that Yuka sent the love letter, he could reverse the situation of being threatened. So he continues to obey her, and the next day, he dresses as a butler to accompany Yuka for shopping. After feeling embarrassed while walking around dressed as a butler, they arrive, and Yuka wants to take a bath. After the long day, Keiki tries to peek at her underwear again, but Yuka screams because there is a spider in the bathroom. Keiki rushes to help her, but sees her unclothed. Yuka forcefully kicks him out and punishes him for his audacity. Although she also likes that he came to her rescue, she lies down on top of him and asks him to stroke her. She takes the opportunity to tell him that she loved her grandmother when she was a child and was always with her. However, when her grandmother died, she felt disappointed and chose to isolate herself from the world. Being alone became more of a choice than a result of her classmates' actions. But Keiki kept talking to her despite her rejection and constant dismissals. He thought she was looking for mistreatment, but in reality, she was waiting for him. If she had wanted to distance herself, she could have simply stopped going to the library. That's why he is very special to her. Yuka goes to get something to drink, but she is still shaken, causing her to trip. Keiki notices that she has his boxers, so he interrogates her. After pressing her to talk, Yuka confesses that she took them from his room. Now that they are within reach, Keiki finally breaks free from the enslavement. The next day, Keiki expresses his envy to Shuma because he now has a potential girlfriend. During the vacation, Shuma tells him that no matter how pretty Koharu is, she has some creepy aspects. When he went over to her house, he found a bunch of videos of himself and a diary detailing everything he did during the day. So, they are in similar situations. Later, Keiki encounters Mao, who asks him to be her boyfriend, but only for the purpose of using him as a model to draw better. Normal people like him are difficult to draw, unlike Shoma, who is attractive. Keiki is slightly offended, and Mao asks him if being handsome is so important. He answers affirmatively, but she wouldn't understand because she is beautiful. Mao blushes and offers to draw him better in her manga as a token of gratitude. Although Keiki is unsure whether this is a reward or a punishment, it turns out that an editor contacted Mao to offer her the opportunity to write a shoujo manga. She is looking for ideas about teenage relationships to broaden her horizons and gain experience, but she promises never to give up on her love. Since Keiki doesn't have a girlfriend to provide anecdotes, she decides to become his girlfriend. She mounts him and asks him to make natural expressions so she can draw them. After embarrassing him a bit, she leaves with her quality material. Then, Keiki encounters Fujimoto, who wants to use him again as a source of scent, but this time they give him a 5-person pool ticket as a prize. He plans to invite Shoma and Koharu, but finds them lying on the ground. He jokingly says he'll call the harassment police. After clarifying that everything was an accident, they refuse to go. However, Keiki sees one of the pictures on the ground and realizes it was taken at the time he got the first actual love letter with the panties. He has finally found the person he had been searching for. He invites all the members of the calligraphy club to the pool and also invites his little sister to use up the 5 free tickets. His plan is to expose the girl who left the love letter. However, they immediately start fighting over Keiki to see who will play with him. Sayuki and Yuka have a duel to decide. Yuka wins and takes him to the water slides, but she didn't anticipate that they would scare her so much. Sayuki takes over and brings him to the wave pool, where her bikini accidentally comes off due to all the movement. Keiki leaves the pool and runs into Mao, who asks for his help in finding useful references for her drawings. She slips, and he barely manages to save her, holding her hand to avoid any further danger. After all this, Keiki looks for Mizuha, who had distanced herself to leave him with his friends. He asks her to play together to make up for his abandonment, but she gets a cramp, so Keiki has to carry her, triggering childhood memories for Mizuha. She takes this opportunity to confess her love to Keiki. Although Keiki is taken aback, he explains that he saw Mao's manga, but Mizuha's feelings are genuine. They continue walking and come across Koharu, who asks for help from all the girls because she is recruiting people for a declaration contest. Sayuki suggests that the winner can make a wish to Keiki, and all of them decide to participate. The competition begins, and Koharu introduces each of them. Each girl presents her unique quirk or fetish in the most adorable way possible to earn points. In the end, Mizuha wins and surpasses the score limit with a display of emotion that Keiki finds a bit unsettling, though he sees it as a form of family love. Mizuha is happy because she now has a wish from Keiki that she can use at any time. She is surprised that Keiki doesn't leave with the other girls, but he explains that he has something to talk to her about. He apologizes in advance and lifts her skirt, revealing that she was the one who left the love letter. Mizuha is surprised that Keiki caught her with such an elaborate plan, but she still wants to know how he knew it was her. Keiki explains about the photo he found and how the timing of when it was taken didn't match when she left. The rest of the story fell into place based on his assumptions. Mizuha is surprised that he guessed everything she did and proceeds to declare her love for him, admitting that she is in love with him even though they are not blood-related. However, Keiki apologizes and says he cannot accept those feelings from his little sister. Mizuha tells him she understands, but there is nothing to worry about because they are the same age, despite being born 5 months apart. Keiki thought their relationship was hastily arranged, but Mizuha knows there is a limit to how fast they can progress. This means they are still siblings, and he decides to keep things as they were. Episode 12, Keiki can't sleep well due to the nightmares he has. This time, he dreams of marrying Sayuki in a romantic relationship. He manages to wake up, but unfortunately, the reality isn't better because Mizuha gets into his bed and gives him a good morning kiss. Keiki scolds her and forbids her from doing that again. Mizuha then jumps on him to make him aware of her feelings. Keiki feels too good, but his values don't allow him to continue down that path, so he decides to leave home and calls his dad to confirm that they aren't blood-related. His dad calmly confirms this, but also adds that Mizuha is his favorite daughter. Keiki then goes to Shoma and Koharu to tell them, and they are greatly surprised to learn that his little sister is the girl they have been searching for all this time. However, they can't offer their homes to Keiki since Shuma has visitors, and if he stays with Koharu, Shuma would become a jealous boyfriend. So Keiki decides to handle it on his own. Keiki sits in a park contemplating everything and encounters Mao, who invites him to share some food since he looks terrible. She also encourages him to reconcile with Mizuha, but realizes the kind of problem they have been dealing with, so she regrets her previous threat to interfere in any relationship he might have. Meanwhile, Mizuha falls asleep but is indecisive about what to do. On the other hand, Keiki wanders aimlessly. Unfortunately, it starts raining, and Mizuha goes out to look for him without success. She returns home to prepare dinner. Later, she hears Keiki coming back, but he caught a cold from being in the rain, so she goes to the supermarket to get something that will help him. Minutes later, Keiki wakes up and is surprised to see Sayuki there because Mizuha ran into her at the supermarket. Sayuki gives him special care and climbs into his bed to share her warmth, falling asleep there. Yuka also arrives and is surprised to see the scene, so she hands Keiki some books and then forcefully kicks Sayuki out since she will be the one taking care of Keiki. Both of them start fighting over who will help Keiki, but this annoys Mizuha because she feels a bit jealous seeing them clinging to him. She kicks them both out. After everything that happened, Keiki remembers when Mizuha came to his house and feels guilty for forgetting it. But he needs to use the bathroom. Once again, he encounters Mizuha completely unclothed. Mizuha is even more surprised that he can walk, but Keiki has doubts, so he asks her when she fell in love with him. Mizuha answers it was when they first met because she had just lost the people she loved the most, and Keiki welcomed her with open arms. That's why she never wants to be separated from him. Keiki understands her feelings and makes a decision to keep things as they were, treating her as his sister, even though they are not blood-related. And so, our story ends with Keiki thinking that he is still single, but now he's surrounded by girls that care for him.